Doodlebud here. I got my very first Franklin Christoph fountain pen. This is the Model 46 in vintage green. Been using it for about 2 weeks now. I'm quite the fan. Let's talk about it, but first let's hit the glam shots. Here's the pen, the Model 46, and like I said, this is in vintage green. This one caught my eye on an Instagram group called Virtual Pen Show. Picked it up through there at a very reasonable price as a used pen, but it's in immaculate condition. Saying hi to Javier. If you're watching, I'll leave a little link in the description for the Instagram group and to him as well. So if you're ever looking to pick up a pen, there's a trusted seller. Now, there was one model I saw they released at a recent pen show, was all black. Glossy black with pink. It had this beautiful kind of, I can't remember if it was a body or on the cap, but a pink band on there, hot pink. It just looked super nice. Those apparently sold out really quick. So I missed on that one, but I couldn't pass up this one. So let's walk you through the pen. I give you some close-up shots, but let's just go through. So on the bottom of the cap here, we got Franklin Christoph, and it shows the Model 46. Now, this is good for someone like me because I don't do well with pens with just the numbers. And if the number isn't on the pen, I forget what it is. So thank you to them for at least making it a little bit easier to go through to know what model is which and which the differences are. I'm not 100% sure on their naming scheme. I know, like, for some pens, say Pelikan or Montblanc, you can follow along the structure they have to know, is it a larger pen or smaller pen, and different filling systems. I don't know if they have that necessarily with Franklin Christoph, but if someone can leave some information on the bottom, if you know what the model numbers mean, that would be great. Here is the top of the pen with the Franklin Christoph logo in there. This is an acrylic pen. It does come with this nice little pencil case here, this little soft, it feels nice on the outside. It's got the logo there as well, but nice and soft and luxurious on the inside because you don't want to scratch this little puppy. They say it's a hardened acrylic, but I'm not going to put this with any metal pens or other stuff like that as well. So it'll either be in this case or a different case all the time. And I wouldn't drop other pens into this one unless it's a similar material, just to avoid scratching. Continuing on to the back side again, nothing crazy here to really pick up. It's got a little slight taper down to there. No clip, so very smooth. Again, minimalistic design. This is a unique feature with theirs, is the threads are up in the front. So that is a very unique feature with the Franklin Christoph pens. I think I like that. Goes to the section. Very small little step down. It's not quite a flush cap. It's just above it. So that's why the step down isn't too much. And very comfortable to use. It's a light pen. I'll do all the weights and measurements as well, but I think overall about 18 grams total. Those threads don't bother me. Even if you hold really near the bottom, they're not sharp. I could see that bothering some people, but I think the general public usually holds the pen somewhere around here. And if you need to go further back, it's fine as well. That might bug some, but again, for me, no problems whatsoever with gripping it and comfort. The cap comes off pretty quick, about 1.5 turns. You can also spin it on there too, so the threads are quite good. They're a little bit, like, not super tight threads. Like, if you just crack it, you do get quite a bit of wiggle, but it does secure up once you fully tighten the pen. They call these their block threads. Now, one benefit with having the threads up at the front, as you can see, when you screw the pen down, there's just not much air there, which means it just reduces nib dry out. Now, there are other ways to do that. Some pens have a bit of a stop on here and goes into the cap, so it's going to essentially seal that same way, but this is another way to do it. They also claim that when you uncap the pen, that the way they're designed, it releases air so as not to have any kind of suction vacuum effect to suck ink out of the pen. I've never had that anomaly happen to me before. I guess, like, what they're essentially saying is as soon as it undoes, air can get in there across that whole thread, versus some air doesn't get in until you unscrew quite a bit. But yeah, you know, I don't know if it's an actual issue, but it would solve it if it is. As far as posting, it does post on the back of the pen. It's not an overly deep post, and it's It's secure enough, but it does wiggle a bit. I find like it doesn't backweight the pen, but it just does make it kind of excessively long. But I haven't had any challenges. Depending where it sits in your hand, I could see it maybe resting there, and just through a little wiggling, it could come loose. I don't really need to post it. If it posted deeper, that would be a little bit nicer, but I don't have any challenges writing with the pen without it being posted whatsoever. As far as filling system, this just takes your standard international cartridge and converter. Nice little touch. They put the Franklin-Christoph naming on there as well as far as branding goes. Again, no crazy features. You can see some of the machining marks. So this is acrylic. It's a turn pen. I've always wondered if there's any pens where they actually kind of polish the inside, even if that's possible. That's just one little neat thing there too. But everything goes together quite well. And then let's get you a close-up of their nibs. So they got their logo on there. This is their black treated nib, and this is in a fine. One great thing about Franklin-Christoph is they have tons of nib options. So that's a really, really nice and welcoming part, is when you got lots of nib options. With cartridge installed and inked, we're talking about 19.5 grams. Pop away the cap. That's a light cap, so we're 15 grams in the whole body. About 135 millimeters overall. The main body is about 14 millimeters, and the widest part here of the cap at about another millimeter. The top of the section is about 12.6 millimeters, and the narrowest part runs down to about 10.5. Tip to tail on the pen, about 127.25 millimeters. A couple pens for size comparison. We have a Narwhal Piston Filler Pelikan M805, the Franklin-Christoph in the middle, Diplomat Aero Pilot 823. And caps off, nibs out. Here we are, the same pens again. It's a really nice size. If you enjoy these pens in those particular sizes and dimensions, I think you'll like this one as well. The pen is inked up and ready for a run here. I'm using Private Reserve Avocado. I thought it looks nice with the green body, so let's get to it.
I can say this pen has been working very nicely for me. The writing experience is good. The nib is nice and smooth. The wetness is properly tuned as well. And I've just held off on buying these pens. I have a few friends that recommended them. They really enjoy them, so I figured it's about time. And I think the biggest reason for me was I got a really nice price on it. I've been sort of toying with the price. I thought maybe it's a bit too much for what you get. There's just not a ton going on, so I felt maybe it was a touch high, but I ended up finding one here used in fantastic condition, and the price was really, really good and sort of more in line where I felt it should be, but again, that's just my sentiment as well. So writing experience, like I said, it's really good. Let's wrap things up. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the pen. I'm going to take it apart, give you my closing thoughts as well, and finish off the writing sample with a little word of wisdom.
Here's the pen fully disassembled. Everything comes apart. It's pretty basic, not too many parts on the pen, and the nib unit just screws out of there. Really nice, good threads on that as well. When you put it back in, a little dab of silicone grease. It's not totally necessary, but not a bad idea as well. If you are going to get rid of the cartridge, you can eyedropper the pen, and in that case, you definitely want to put a little silicone grease on the barrel threads and the nib unit there too. So now my overall thoughts on the pen and any likes and dislikes. I likes it. One, this green is what really caught my eye. I think it's really great. You can sort of see through it a little bit, see the unique threads. Yeah, again, there's not any sort of outlandish or revolutionary design on the pen as far as shape and stuff like that, but they did a very nice job of making it look quite well. It's very comfortable. The capping mechanism's quite nice and quick. Those threads don't get in the way. It's a nice light pen, so I could see this for longer writing sessions, or especially if you're an artist and you want lighter pens, I imagine you can't go wrong with that. The build quality is good. Yeah, I got no gripes at all, really, as far as any issues with assembly or anything like that. The nib wrote perfectly right away as well. One probably little thing, it's not a big deal with the pen, doesn't impact it that much, but it does rattle just a little bit when you got the converter in there. So it's just one of those pens where it's a little rattly with that converter. You don't notice it when you're using it. If you're a bit of a pen tapper kind of thing, you're doing this, you note it. So that's the only sort of little gripe. And I guess it's just how the overall pen sits together. If that bore was a little bit more snug around the converter, that would eliminate it. Or if they had left some meat in here to kind of touch it up there, that would get rid of it too. But you got a little bit of play in there, and that's what's happening with that rattle. I found just enough to be a little bit more noticeable than some other pens, but it doesn't really drive me bonkers. But for someone else watching, that might drive you absolutely up the wall. I haven't had any issues with dry ups or performance or hard starts or anything like that. So all the good things you want a pen to do, this pen is doing it. If I were to pick up another Franklin-Christoph, I would probably get a model that's a little bit larger, and possibly one with a clip as well. I always just worry, some of the pens that don't have roll stops or they're smooth, they can roll off a desk. If it's a solid metal pen, I don't worry as much. I don't want a pen to fall and get damaged, but if a solid brass or titanium or aluminum pen hits the ground, it might have a blemish, but it won't break. This potentially could. I think this is a little bit better quality acrylic, but I have seen some where they just crack. So I would be a little bit nervous with one of these pens sometimes. I'm just a little bit more cautious when I got the pen case close by or something to put it on. So I think with these types of pens, a clip is nice with that. But if you got a nice little pen roll on your desk and you don't have an issue managing that, no challenges there whatsoever. That's really it. That's all I have to say. I've been really enjoying this pen. And if you're looking at getting one of these, hopefully this answered some questions you have or gave you some nice close-up shots to help you with your decision. Speaking of questions, if you have one, just chuck one in the comment. I'll do my best. I am not an expert on Franklin-Christoph pens, as this is my very first one, so someone else in the comments might be able to answer it for you too, and maybe let us know if you have a favorite Franklin-Christoph model or nib. Feel free to leave that in the comments as well. Likes and subscribes, I got nothing against those, so give me some if you want to. Catch you next time.